Hello and welcome to Culture Shock, the podcast that celebrates diversity, innovation, and community. I'm your host, Karen Petgrave, and I will be exploring some amazing multicultural stories that are making a difference in our communities. Whether it's food, fashion, health, or technology, we will be embracing the unique identities and cultures in your community and mine. Hi, and welcome to Culture Shock. Today, I am thrilled to introduce Elsa Perez. Elsa is an accomplished early childhood consultant, speaker, presenter, and author with a rich experience spanning over 30 years. Elsa's work in the Greater Toronto Area has been instrumental in shaping programs and policies that enhance early care and education. Her commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is evident in her work as a resource consultant and chair on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee at QP Ontario. Now, that right there, Elsa, is one of the reasons that I am just so happy about your work, because as a ESL student myself, sometimes sometimes those words slip up and it's like, oh yeah, like pronunciation.
You're doing great.
Thank you. She is the author. She's also the author of the enlightening book series, The World I Live In, which you guys have to check out, which simplifies and explains the concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion to young children. When she's not working, Elsa indulges in her passion for painting and gardening. She's a proud mother and grandmother. Elsa's life is a vibrant and inspiring as a professional, her professional journey. So can you just join me, everyone, in welcoming Elsa? Let's dive into her inspirational story. Welcome, Elsa, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks
Now,
for having me.
thank you so much. Now, can you tell me a little bit about your journey into the field of childhood education? It's kind of a two-part question, and what inspired you to choose this path?
Ooh. Yeah. For me, teaching was something I feel like, and it sounds really corny to say, but I was born with. I'm one of 7 children. My younger siblings would always be playing house. But while they were playing house, I always wanted to play school.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but they didn't want to play school because, they've been in school all day. So I didn't know what it was about school. I felt I can do better as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
especially for children that look like me. When we came here, when my parents immigrated here, I was about 8, and no one in the school looked like us, looked like me and my brothers and sisters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things happen that I thought, you're the adult. As a child, I'm thinking, why aren't you doing something about that as being the adult? So I think that for me was in my head, that I love teaching young kids because I knew that I can make a difference in their life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was something that I've always wanted to do. It, like, just by role playing, just by
Mm-hmm.
teachers that were in my life that I felt could have done a better job. Like,
Yeah.
I think those were the things that kind of pushed me towards developing a better generation.
Well, and
For
I think that's like really good as well, because that's how changes are made. You basically experience something and you thought, hey, don't want someone else to experience those type of things. And I think I could be a part of that change. So that's really wonderful. So you have been in the Greater Toronto Area for about 30 years now. How have you, like, what changes have you seen in the education field? Like, how has it evolved, say, from your experiences as a child and then getting into that field over the past little while, like as you've taken your path?
I'm going to be real honest with you. It
Mm-hmm.
hasn't changed much.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I say that, in the respect of culturally,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Teachers that are going into the field still have that same mindset. And to be honest, it's only since, 2020 with George Floyd happening, you see that kind of a little nudge, not even a change, it's a nudge toward changes where,
So
yeah,
yeah, you know what, I totally understand what you're saying. And at times, sometimes I actually feel that we're kind of going a bit backwards. However, what I will say is that due to educators like you and just overall this push that a lot of people have been and making grounds to say, hey, inclusion also means like our stories have to be told, because you can only be proud of who you are when you can look and recognize, hey, I'm a part of this fabric, right? So I totally agree with you. I myself as well, I came to Canada at 10, and same thing. There's very few people until maybe high school that look like me, and same experiences that you speak of. Now, can you share with me like any upcoming projects or plans that you have when it comes to the field of early childhood education? Like your book series is wonderful. So let's find out some more.
that also came about because we were all forced to work at home. So at that time, all this, emotion for the Black culture was going in every single one of us. I knew I always had to write, but giving my career, there was no time to write.
Yeah.
I'm raising a family, going back to school, all these things. There was no time to write. And the COVID made us kind of like slow down. And it gave me the opportunity to start the book that I already started like, a while ago, but to actually finish it up, get an editor, get it printed, and get it done. And which led to not just the book, but to workshops that I created, facilitated to all my colleagues in the Greater Toronto area.
Awesome.
Yeah. And they're still asking for the
Yeah.
workshop. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that actually the question just popped in my head now, which I think is important as well, because you're representing that those kids out there that are like, hey, I can do this as well, right? Like I have ideas, I might want to write a book, and to see someone that looks like them in author, looking back at them, a book that they're reading, like
Mhm.
that's amazing. Thank you. So earlier on in the show, I talked about your work as chair and resource consultant, emphasize consultant for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility for QP Ontario.
Yeah.
So diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, DEIA, I'll just put that they're important concepts that many people are interested in understanding, to get a better understanding. Can I ask you a few questions about that?
Yeah.
Like
So,
I
yeah.
find that right now we are really in this really challenging time of what does that mean? Um, so essentially, what does that mean? Right? What does it mean, right?
Right, right. So, currently, my correct title is I'm a member of the community for QP Ontario.
Okay.
So, I'm on two committees for QP Ontario. So it is the Racial Justice Committee,
Yes.
which challenges anti-racism. And I'm also on the Women's Committee
Oh.
that for all women, rights of women, right? So those are the two committee that I'm looking at. Now on my local, which is also affiliated with the QP Ontario, I was the Equity, Equality, and Diversity Chair,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
With that, I moved, and I also did on my local. I resigned from that position, and I took the recording secretary position. And I was recently, someone took that position from me. And then I went for the trustee position. Having said all of that, I'm very active in my union, just supporting the labor movement with the union. Yes, yes, yeah.
So that's what I was gonna actually say. Like your inspiration, like what, one day you're just like, hey, you know what? I been through all this. What was the inspiration to even run? Keeping in mind, it's another great thing for younger people to see, to say, hey, I have these ideas, I want to make a difference, and Elsa's doing it, I can do it too, right?
Yes, yes. And it's funny when you start something, it usually happens like a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I keep going back, George Floyd
Yeah.
being home, and it's the COVID. And I ended up writing the book. And actually, I ended up writing a poem.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that's what had happened. I wrote a poem called The Skin I'm In. And then I wrote a workshop called Confronting Anti-Black Racism. And then came the book. And from the launch of the book, the president from our local union in which I work, doing my consultation job, came to the book launch. And once he saw that, he pulled me into the union. Right. So
Yeah.
while he's pulling me into the union, my the what is it called, the manager of the city, because that's who I work for, the city, was also at the book launch, pulled me into this group to send out this workshop now to all the consultant in the Greater Toronto area. So that's how I got pulled in kind of like those two directions. So while I'm working on that project with the city, I was working on I got elected to be the chair of the Confronting Anti-Racism committee.
Wonderful.
And then from that, I got elected on the racial justice. And then from that, so it was like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're thinking you're just doing, I was writing to heal myself because I've always done that since I was younger, writing poetry and literature and stuff like that, just to heal, because the struggles that was faced when I was younger, I didn't know what it was, back in the 70s, you don't know what it was. And so for me to be able to understand and to heal, I write. Right. So when George Floyd happened, I write. And from that writing came all this opportunity. Yeah.
I think that's one of the most important things for people to hear, is that it's okay to write things down, to express how you feel. If you're not like you said, you didn't know at the time, right? Like in the 70s, we didn't know what it was called. To put things out there, because if you're feeling this, someone else is feeling this. And I think especially when you're a child, whether you're a Black child, you're coming in, or you're a person of color coming into somewhere new, you face challenges, but you face challenges when you are from here and you are different and you don't feel represented, right? So to have that outlet to be able to write and to see, once again, to see someone, like I remember growing up, one of the teachers that really stuck out to me was just this. He just said, you know what? I see you. I see the struggles that you're going through, because I was new to Canada. I was, trying to figure out this new language, this new land, like just everything, right? So one of the things when I talk to people, that I find that they always ask and have like difficulty kind of understanding, what is the difference between diversity and inclusion?
That and I think a lot of people have trouble with that.
Yeah.
So, and then and they'll say things like, well, we're diverse. Diverse is everyone,
Yes.
right? So diverse doesn't exclude anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It just means we're all different. We're all unique. We're
Yeah.
all special. Inclusion would be inviting everyone into your circle or immediate gathering and listening to their sort of story and acknowledging them, right?
Yeah.
You're including them and taking their ideas, taking their experience, and listening to it and implementing in a way that'll better others that look like them,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. I think especially in the past while with those who are impacted by things in the past and speaking up that they want that inclusion. It's really important, and it's changed how programs, even the programs that are offered now, some of the workshops that I see are like so amazing that unfortunately they weren't spoken about
Yeah.
in the past. So it's really given that opportunity to say, hey, look, this is how I feel. And to have people say, yeah, we're going to take what your needs are instead of what we think you need, right? That's,
Big,
yes,
huge,
yes, yeah,
right?
huge difference.
Yeah.
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 So speaking about that, what's the difference between uh being giving, equal, what is equity in when talking about diversity, equity, inclusion? What does equity mean? Because I think that's another big one too,
Yeah.
that when we talk about um that whole piece, people kind of misunderstand that equity piece.
Yeah. So, some people may think of equity and get it confused with um, equality. Like everybody is getting equal amount, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not what equity is, right? Equity is giving people what they need,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? To be able to get whatever job they need done. So if I live in a big house and someone else lives in a smaller house and getting less income than I'm getting, we shouldn't both get the same amount of grant, right?
Yeah.
Someone else they may need more money, right? To be able to get it. I mean, I can go into the system and how the system is created. It's not created equitable for everyone because it wasn't built for us, for people that look like us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can start there, right? By being equitable because we weren't given the opportunity to even buy houses, right? We were turned away from loans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when you talk about equity is giving someone that looks like us equal opportunity to be able to own a home without making the interest rate that we're paying more higher than someone else that doesn't look like us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the home will be unattainable for us.
No, exactly. And at times you have people say, well, that doesn't happen. Well, it does,
Yeah.
right? Well, no, to be fair, there's people that they're dumbstruck when you say
Yeah.
to them, well, no, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
whatever type thing, right? But no, definitely it's one of the things that when I speak to people that they do have a hard time in getting that equity piece kind of cemented in their heads. Now, when it comes to accessibility with the work that you do, how does that look? So if someone was to say, hey, Elsa, I'm working at this job and I might need it might be hearing
Amen.
equipment, or
Yeah.
there's not a ramp that they might need at work, like that. Like, what does accessibility mean when it comes to the whole piece of DIA?
It's I would say that it means making things accessible for everyone. And for people who didn't have the opportunity to access certain things in life.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
I talked about, like even with the home, way back when we weren't able to access the home, right? In a nice neighborhood, per se, right?
Yeah.
We weren't able to access that good paying job, right? We weren't able to access that good education.
Well, I was just going to give the example of
Yeah,
even just being able to have an after school program where tutors can come out, right? Or to have access to where there's a certain amount of tutors that can come out and help a student. Because we know that all those things are super helpful with boosting further education.
yeah.
Like definitely things like that, right?
An opportunity, not just
Yes.
education, but opportunity. Having
Yes. Yeah.
access to people that are already there can give you that step, right?
Mm-hmm.
That opportunity,
Yeah.
right? Because society wants you to believe if you study hard and you do that, you'll get there. But what they're forgetting is it's who you know
And that's where where you live,
and
like
where you
better
live.
opportunity to be in a good neighborhood, because then
Yes,
you're around people. When you're around people that are various levels, then you want to strive to attain. You're learning more. You're definitely. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
right now, like in the area that I'm living in, there's a lawyer here,
Yeah.
there's a nurse here, there's a principal here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just to name a few.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's having that accessibility. And I just wanted to bring it back to what you're saying, even in where you live, just having those access. So my neighbor is a principal. She can give me access to becoming, a teacher.
Yeah.
The lawyers there, they can give me access to get into the jurisdiction area or law or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just who where you live. It's all interconnected. It's not separate, right?
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
connected.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So how important is this in the workplace? You know, how does diversity and equity, like how does that play out in the workplace, and why is it important? Like we know that it is, as the chair, like as someone that people can call on when you're getting these calls, why is it important for you to be there? Because sometimes people, especially the past, since George Floyd and we had the glory days, and then
Yeah.
now it's kind of dipping for
Yeah.
some people. There's not for all, because this has kind of pushed a lot of us to just do the work even more because we notice what's going on. Some people don't grasp the concept that even within systems that are working to make things better, and even just your everyday workplace, there is so much fight. And people don't believe it. Like they don't understand sometimes that you just step out your front door and you're like, what's going to go on today?
That as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, I can relate. Oh God, because
Yeah.
that was the thing too. Was one of the reasons too, where I'm like, this is heavy.
Yeah.
This is so heavy. When I was a chair of the Equity and Equality and Diversity committee, because you're fighting for your members for equity and all this stuff while you're experiencing it yourself within the
Yes.
workplace. So when I was doing that within the workplace, I'm doing it with upper management, right? So they're getting it, they're getting it, whatever. But middle management is not. So still that colonial thought and management is still happening,
Yeah.
right? And then what they would do is promote maybe, one Black person, but it's that one Black person at the top and above them is another white person. So
Mhm.
still they're feeling that crunch. So they're not going to last. So my thing is, great, you know, you promoted one Black person. What have you had in place to support her or
Yeah.
him?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not going to last if they don't have that support.
Yes. And it almost feels like
Daunting.
you're alone
Yeah.
because you're there to do this job. However, it's almost like all eyes are on you,
Yeah.
and it's increased scrutiny
And
at
don't dare
times.
mess up, because if you mess up, now we're going to look at everyone that looks like you the same.
Yes,
You're going to mess
exactly.
up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What are some things like when we talk about just how to help out, what are some things like the average person, myself, your neighbors, people who are interested in helping out and promoting helping their community and people in the workplace and even just people in general uh learn from you, what can we do in our everyday lives?
So this is something that I teach in my workshop.
Yeah.
And I always say it starts with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? It starts with you, and it starts with internal work. So if you want to do this work, you got to start inside. You've got to change the way you think. And don't think that, oh, I'm not racist, I'm not biased. If you grew up in North America, you're racist because it is a racist. You know
Well,
what I
the
mean?
system,
The
yes,
system,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And well, I should say, if you grew up in North America, you have biases. Well, I shouldn't even say North America.
The
You
world.
have everybody has biases, right?
Yeah, yes.
Everybody has biases. So we need to do that work within,
Yeah.
right? Change the way you see other cultures. Get to know those other cultures. How do you do that? Go to a restaurant um, that is out of your culture, right? Talk to your neighbors that don't look like you, right? Just have a conversation, you know. Have your kids have friends over that
Yeah.
don't look like them. That's how it starts. Get to know them, get to know their culture. And remember, when you get to know their culture, remember that you don't know everything about their culture,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. I think that's one of the biggest pieces, especially, tearing down biases, stereotypes, is to understand your experience with one or a few members of a culture. That's not the beginning and the end. You haven't, become an expert, because
Exactly.
even within culture, we aren't experts on our own selves, because we don't know. You have to have that knowledge, and unfortunately, especially when it comes to Black people, we don't have that. We unfortunately, so we ourselves are now learning to bring forth that knowledge. But definitely, and some of it too is, like you said, that work that you got to do inside.
It's
Because
hard work.
yeah, yeah.
It's hard work, because it's literally um your brain is like a CD, right?
Yeah.
That's already been imprinted on. And the
Mm-hmm.
imprint is what society has told you for the years that you've been alive,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
conscious or unconsciously. And
Yeah.
what I'm asking you to do is erase all of that
And redo it.
and redo it again.
Yes.
It's
And
hard.
it is very hard. Like I especially, what you said really resonates with me. Being new to Canada, growing up really away from people that look like me. And I always think about that emancipating yourself from mental slavery. You
Yeah.
really do have to kind of at a certain age be like, this doesn't feel right. There's something there. And it's almost like you said, erasing
Yeah.
everything that you've been taught, and looking at things differently. It's like real internal
Yeah.
fight. Like it's this challenge that you
Model
face.
within yourself. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but at the end of it, when you do come out, it's just so much, like you see so much better, and have a greater understanding of who you are. And I mean, the struggle's still there, but now you understand why. your eyes are open.
Exactly. And what I want to add to that is once that eye has been opened, you see things so differently.
Yeah. Now,
Never
can we
seen the same. Yeah.
yeah, can we go back to like the beginning when we're talking about the books that you write? One of the things that I hear a lot from parents, and as a parent myself, is that they face the challenge of their kids coming home from school. I have even heard of kids as young as like JK coming home saying, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to be Black.
Mm-hmm.
I hate myself."
Mm-hmm.
How, it's, and as a parent, when you hear your child say that, so those are the pieces as to why it's important
Exactly.
for to have diversity, inclusion, equity. Those are the pieces because we have to see our value. Anyone, you have to see what your value is in order to appreciate and value your own self and have pride in who you are. But what would you say to a parent that, and I'm actually when I saw this, I actually screenshot it because I wanted to make sure I remember it. What would you say to that parent? Like her daughter and JK was like, yeah, no, I don't want to be Black. It's and went on as to why.
Yeah. Oh, this is like touching home for me. I feel like I need to answer it in two parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like how I raise my girls and what I do now to support kids
Yeah.
is because I come into Canada at such a young age. I felt that way because nothing in school represented me. The teachers didn't represent me. Nothing in the history books or being taught in school represent me. We were taught that Black people were slave and that was it, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So in my head, I had this plan. If I ever had kids, I'm going to make sure that they are loved and they will love the color of their skin.
Mm-hmm.
So I started this journey the moment I had children to make sure I told her in the morning. And now it's like an affirmation. Everyone is saying it's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I made sure she knew she was loved unconditionally.
Yeah.
I make sure I told her I chose her
Yeah.
as my child and that her skin was beautiful
Mm-hmm.
and that her hair was beautiful and everything about her was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I made her repeat it. And I just don't say this one day. I say this every day she woke up, every day of her life, birthdays, things on the wall, all around. I don't know if it was right, but this is what I did because I wanted her, no, even if I got angry at them, they knew they were loved
Mm-hmm.
and they were
Mm-hmm.
appreciated for exactly who they are.
Yeah.
Now, for families who have those children coming to them and saying, I don't like my Black skin, I have to share this experience with you as an early childhood consultant. Being in the daycare one day, and this little boy, he was Black, and we were doing a group game, and he goes, well, I don't want to play because I always mess thing up.
Mm.
And I thought, it really like, oh, God. I said to him, do you know you were special? Kind of looks at me. He had his head down, and I'm like, oh, God,
Oh,
killing
yeah.
me. And I said, you are special. And he goes, no. And I said, yes, you are. And I said, do you know why? He goes, no. And I go, look at my skin. Look at your skin. We're the same skin. You know what makes this skin special? Because it's made of melanin. Do you know where melanin comes from? It comes from the sky. You know what's up in the sky? The stars. That makes us special. Melanin is worth more than gold.
Mm-hmm.
That makes us extra special.
Mm-hmm.
And I just keep with that, letting them know how precious melanin is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, even that in itself, people don't we're not taught that. Like, I mean, when
Well,
you,
this is it.
right? The average person is, they don't know that piece of knowledge. Now, you said you came to Canada, and I as well came around that you came at 8, I came at 10. And I find it a little bit, I'm grateful for the time that I spent in my home country, because that piece that we just spoke about, even though it was only for 10 years, I always say, I don't know up here what would be going on if I didn't have that foundation of being in schools with pictures up on the wall with people that look like me, hearing the history of people that look like me. And mind you, it wasn't just that. We learned world history, not just North America on a little scales,
Yeah.
right? So that's another piece too that I always think about. I'm like, when you are 3 or 4 years old and you're recognizing that you are different, because it does happen. And that's why I think it's so important for parents that have kids to talk to them about it. They already know. They
I'll,
know
I'll
they're different.
actually, I'll give you a little scientific. Children recognize colors by the 6 months of age.
Yeah.
You know that. They
Mhm.
recognize the difference between black and white. They don't attribute value to it.
No.
But they do gravitate towards the person that looks more like their caregiver, which is their.
Mm-hmm.
But they recognize that. And
Mm-hmm.
once you tell families that or parents that, it's kind of like, that means you can have that conversation about race as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Yeah.
wait till they're 1. You don't have to wait till they're 2, because they're making that recognition at 6 months of age, even younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're making that recognition. They start noticing when you take them on walks, who lives in what house and who lives in what neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when they start making those eventual differences. Now, if you don't have that conversation with them, they're going to come up with their own theory of why that is happening.
Yes, as well as society telling them.
Those subliminal messages.
Yes, yes,
Exactly.
yes, yes.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
this is why it is extremely important to start the conversation early.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's why I wrote my book, so they can have a subway into having that conversation.
Yeah. I've always, like, that's one of the things I always kind of talk about is, what age are you supposed to talk about? And when people ask me, I'm like, that should just be a conversation that is age appropriate from the beginning, right? So it's not your child's coming home and something happens and you're like, oh, sticks and stones. Well, no, actually, words do hurt.
And it hurts for longer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Words can destroy you.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking about that, what are some of the things, like, say, for
Mhm.
educators, parents, people who are around kids, like you said, you just notice this little boy, and it's crazy because you can see, right? Sometimes you can just see, you'll be in a room, and I've been in there where I am like the only Black child, and you can kind of just feel that. How can educators and parents and just adults in general and people working with kids, interacting, how can they help?
They can help by talking about it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't talk about it, kids are going to think that it's something that we shouldn't talk about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the next thing is, don't be afraid to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. It's okay if you mess up. And let the children know. If you don't know, let them know. I don't know. So let's
Yeah.
look it up together. let's find a book on it and read it together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think doing what I'm doing and doing the teaching that I'm doing on confronting anti-Black racism and EDI, that's what I hear from early childhood educators is,
Yeah.
I don't know what to talk about it. This happened. I know it's wrong, but I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And the thing is, not saying anything actually is giving that child consent or giving that parent consent or giving that adult consent. If only to interrupt and say, stop, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
kind of like take that child that's been hurt and talk to him or her and say that shouldn't have happened to you. That little thing would
Makes a
mean the
huge.
world.
No, it honestly does. For a child to be heard makes such a big difference. It really makes the difference between, something happening and parents or educators ignoring it and just thinking it's gonna just blow over, or someone saying, look, I see you, I see the challenges that you're facing. I know that this happened. How can we talk about it? It might not fix the situation, but that child they feel heard, they feel seen, and they
Value.
feel that in spite of what's happened, that's the outcome. Someone listened to me.
And someone was on my side.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
adults around didn't do anything because
Yeah.
that's what I grew up on. You
Yeah.
know, the adults around me watching these things happen and not do anything at all.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I've been in those situations as well. So as a mother and grandmother, how has your personal life influenced your professional life? Right? Because you brought up the piece that so
Yeah.
how do you think it's impacted?
I think it intertwines, as I said, like I really feel it's all connected because I'm doing this because of my children and my grandchildren,
Yeah.
because my ancestors um have left a better world for me, right? So I want to leave a better world for
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah, sometimes I just, even with what you just said, like it's like shivers down the spine because we're still here.
Yeah,
When I talk with my kids and they've had um a rough day or a situation, I said we are still here. In spite of everything, we're still here.
yeah.
And,
We are the flowers that was unwatered,
yeah,
uncared for, but still we
yeah,
rise,
yes,
right?
yes.
And we will continue to rise,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to do our part to make sure those flowers coming up continues to rise
Mm-hmm.
with less mental health issues than we grew up with.
Yeah.
That is my goal.
Yeah. And talking about everything, I really also want to put out there the importance of support. We need to support each other to rise,
Yes,
because sometimes I'm not saying for everyone. I've faced this, and it's everywhere. It's not just within the Black community. Sometimes the challenges we face are within.
yeah,
So we have to support each other in order to just rise up, make the world a better place for our kids, which in turn is for everyone,
exactly.
right? It's not this thing where we only want to talk about ourselves. It's if we're good, it's like the saying, if mom's good, everyone, if we're good, then we're able to produce more. We're able to be happy. That spreads, like that joy spreads if we're able to be our best selves.
Yeah,
I know it's corny, but like if we're able to reach and attain what we internally are meant to do,
potential.
right? Like
Absolutely.
how
Yeah,
many kids out there have just, they could have been the next this, that, whatever, but they just weren't, like you said, the flower wasn't watered.
No, no, it wasn't watered, it wasn't nurtured. And I always say this to the parents that I consult with. You can, as a parent, you cannot pour from an empty bowl or an empty cup. You
Yeah.
can't. If
Mm-hmm.
you have nothing to give, how could you give something that you have nothing of? How could you show someone love when you don't have love within yours for yourself?
Yeah.
Right?
And yeah, and at times too for us parents is like you said in the beginning, doing that internal work because we ourselves need to have that our own cups filled in order to pass that on, right, to
Give the
someone else.
person. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So your book, any new stuff coming out that working on anything new?
I am. It actually is a series, but I only have one book published so far. I have
Yeah.
another book to publish, but like I said,
Life.
life, it's like you do one book and it's like boom, 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 like dominoes.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm trying to and get the other book rolling. And
And any final messages that you would like our listeners to, leave with our listeners today?
I would say take care of you because you can pour from an empty bowl. Take
Yes.
care of you first. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And follow your dreams. Do what
Mm-hmm.
your heart desire. Don't think about anyone else. Just do you.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
that's beautiful because, for so long, a lot of people they're just trying to survive, just
Um,
right? Like that beginning piece of like it's like just trying to get out of the door. I just gotta go do my thing and get back to safety. But yeah, live life.
yeah.
Find what your passion is because in the
Oh,
end,
yeah,
it's gonna bring you joy, and there's someone else out there that's gonna bring joy to as well.
exactly. Do what
Yeah.
you love.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I love talking about the subject. And for anyone out there, we're going to link the books. Go out, check the books out, reach out to Elsa,
Please.
right? Yes, yeah,
Yes.
no, because those are wonderful books to put in schools and libraries, daycares, just to have to reach for. Like I know it's as a parent myself, I try to make sure that I have books that represent diverse cultures and to have people say, hey, that little girl or little boy looks like me, or they're
Exactly.
sharing a story that I hear about, right, from mom and dad type thing, right? So thank you. It was a pleasure talking with you and have yourself a great night.
Thank you for having me. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yes. Bye.